inspiration to them because he gave people the courage to be themselves, the courage to be weird, the courage to be artistic, and the courage to do things and to break new ground that they may have not had if, had he not existed. He was always himself. He's a bit eccentric. He was a bit of a character, a bit of a diva. All those words could describe Prince. But when it comes right down to it, he's still one of the greatest artists of our lifetime. I realized how much he meant to me, even before he passed, how much of a great factor he's been in my life, just by some of his songs and just by some of his concerts and live footage. I gotta say, I can't go that far into this podcast without mentioning one of the greatest films, one of the greatest movies that you will ever see in your lifetime. And if you hadn't seen this movie, you need to order this on Amazon Stat. The price of it might go up now that he's passed away, but you need to order the special edition, edition of Purple Rain. Prince, recorded dozens and dozens of number one hits. I'm very surprised to read that he only has 7 Grammys in his career. Prince, I would think that he would have had way more Grammys than that, but he's only had 7. I bet he's been nominated a whole bunch of times. But a lot of people will remember Prince from his legendary performances with his band, The Revolution. That was the name of his band. And just the amazing performances that they put on. And one thing that you can say about Prince and his band is that Prince was always changing his sound up to he always evolved. He was basically like the Undertaker of music. If I could compare him to any kind of wrestler, he was always evolving with the times. He went through this rock phase of when he was just posting rock songs, and as got into the early 90s, he started to incorporate R&B and hip hop, and he was always, you can't really put him in a box of just a certain category of his music, because his music touched a whole lot of different genres. It was part R&B, part rock, part hip hop, part funk, part just a lot of different things. Soul music. He gospel, he just had a whole lot of different, genres in his music. And he always had these very, very expensive performances when he put on a show or put on a concert with just very elaborate. He didn't care if he lost money putting on a concert by just the money that he spent on props and the money he spent on different parts of the show. He didn't care if eventually he lost money or if the tours that he went on didn't make money. He was just an artist. He was just always trying to put out the best show possible. Prince was just a trailblazer in music in general, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I think he did a song in the early 90s that Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife, her daughter, whatever their daughter's name is, heard the song that Prince put out in the early 90s, and Tipper Gore caught her daughter listening to Prince, and the song, I guess, was so explicit that Tipper formed this group or whatever to make sure that record companies put the parental advisory sticker on it. I haven't done a lot of research, so I don't know if that was like the origins of the parental advisory sticker on albums and CDs. You know, this might even be before CDs started coming out, but or this was how the parental advisory. I'm sure that wasn't all how the parental advisory thing started out. I think it also had a lot to do with a lot of gangster rap and a lot of stuff like rap music was very explicit too in the early '90s, so that might have also had something to do with it. But Prince was a big part of how the parental advisory sticker or the parental advisory label on albums, how that came about. It's because he was just raw, you know? He was very raw, very explicit at times, and just very sexual. He was a very, very sexual artist. And he didn't mind, using profanity and using explicit description of, I mean, listen to some of the song titles that this dude had. I mean, he had songs like I Want to Be Your Lover, Soft and Wet, Sex in the Summer, Screwdriver. Those were just a few of his songs. Then, he was just a very, very sexual artist. And I'm going to miss him just because of that. And you got to think on how many babies were made in the 80s and 90s because of Prince. Some of y'all probably listening to this show, you probably were conceived because your parents listened to Prince and got their groove on, while they were listening to Prince. And so you kind of owe Prince more than you think. You might owe Prince your life. He's 1/3 of your daddy, basically. He came out with a lot of songs, a lot of baby making songs. And Prince will be missed just because of that, I think. Because you don't really have anybody that's pushing sex and pushing love making nowadays like he was back in the day. So a lot of the population of the world can thank Prince for some of the songs that he made. Also, to all my people that are comic book fans and are comic book nerds, you owe Prince a huge, huge debt because he did the soundtrack to the 1989 film Batman with Michael Keaton, the Michael Keaton Batman movie that came out, the first Tim Burton Batman movie. Is that soundtrack is all pretty mostly just Prince. Prince did that whole soundtrack, wrote a lot of the songs for that movie, and including he made the song called The Bat Dance. That was his song. Prince is responsible for that song and for the soundtrack to Batman. Prince is responsible for all that. So that's, one of the two things that's ingrained into my childhood is Purple Rain, of course, just because of how great, how awesome that movie was. And also the Joker, Jack Nicholson as the Joker dancing to Prince in the Batman movie. That's always going to stick out when somebody mentions Prince. To me, is going to be those two things: Purple Rain and the Batman movie, the Joker dancing to Prince. And his songs are just all throughout that movie. Go back and watch Batman after you watch Purple Rain. Go and watch the 1989 Batman movie with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. There's a lot of Prince in that movie, a lot of his style and a lot of that movie is so Prince. But, he written a lot of songs for a lot of different artists that he doesn't even get credit for. He wrote Nasty Girl for Vanity 6, and He wrote a song for Stevie Nicks. And of course, how can I not, when I'm talking about great songs that Prince wrote, you gotta talk about the time, Jungle Love, or Jungle Love. I love that song. By the time he wrote that song, he wrote songs for Sheila E. He wrote songs for Shaka Khan. Wrote songs for Sheena Easton. You know, just the Bangles. He actually wrote that song, Manic Monday. That was Prince that wrote that song. So, a lot of people don't know that. But he wrote a lot of songs. Patti LaBelle, Sinead O'Connor, the list goes on and on, of just songs that he wrote for other people that became hits for them. He basically was the Kanye West of his time. You know, he even wrote a song for Alicia Keys, How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore. Man, Prince was just very, very influential to everybody. And the world has lost a great, great musical icon. But I can go on and on about what Prince did for everybody else. But I want to tell you what Prince has meant to me. And I'm going to put this up and hope that once I post this and put this up, that no other famous person passes away and dies. But Prince has meant a great deal to me. Like I said, the movie Purple Rain, that song Purple Rain, has been so influential to me growing up as a kid that the one song that I played in the intro, When Doves Cry, that the first time I heard that song, the lyrics just stuck with me, and I really started feeling that song. You know, maybe I'm just like my father, too bold. Maybe I'm just like my mother. She's never satisfied. That reminds me, you know, so much of my father and so much of my mother, because John Mays was certainly bold at times. And if you know my mother, if you know Mabel Mays, you know she's never satisfied. So when I heard that song back in the day, I thought he was talking directly to me. And, you know, Prince, just everything about Prince. Prince was the only dude that could wear feminine clothes or wear just some very suspicious things and probably steal your girl wearing your girl's clothes. That's just how Prince was, just very secure in his masculinity, that he could do stuff like that. And I just always thought he was just this huge pimp. Like, even though Prince dressed very feminine, even though he acted a certain way to where, you know, you kind of question, maybe some people question his sexuality, I always knew Prince was a straight man. I always knew Prince was getting plenty of women. You can just tell. Just like he just had an aura about him, like a purple light or aura that just followed him wherever he went. You know, Prince was he was a pimp, a real life pimp. And then he could play every instrument, played all his own instruments, and he was just lit. Prince was just an amazing, amazing person. And as I think about it, as I'm doing this podcast, it really kind of bums me out that he's gone. And that we're not going to see any more major contributions from Prince. You know, he's already given us a lot. We can go listen to all his old stuff. Or most of it. Some of his music you can't even get online because he owns the rights to all of his music. Also, I was talking to my friend Emily the other day about this. But did you know that Prince actually has dozens and dozens of unreleased material, unreleased songs, and he even had Kevin Smith, one of my favorite directors, by the way. Kevin Smith actually filmed a documentary on Prince in the early 90s. But all this stuff, Prince owns the rights to this documentary. He owns the rights to all this unreleased music. dozens and dozens, probably like 50 unreleased